just take the first question for ma'am, Ms. Kidwai.
The first ones are always the brave ones.
The first ones are always brave ones. Okay. Oh, okay. So the journey for women to up to the boardroom comes from a man who's leading the boardroom, but with exceptional women in there.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me, ma'am? Yes. First of all, I just want to say that yours is a truly remarkable journey. Personal courage. You've been very unconventional in everything that you've done. You've been a path breaker, and I know that when you entered the corporate world, it was maybe 10 years before liberalization as we know it. So you've seen the ups and downs of the Indian economic system. So remarkable journey, and thank you for coming to our dialogues. Ms. Kidwai, my question is about a comment you had made earlier. At one point you had said that you don't believe in the quota system, and you were talking in the context of Indian politics and the public space. You said that we don't need quotas, at least in legislative bodies. And I have seen as a reporter the amount of bias and prejudice which was there. When, as a reporter, we used to report on the Women's Reservation Bill, we saw some of the most sexist comments being made very openly 15 to 20 years back in Parliament by senior leaders about women wanting to enter Parliament. So there was a very strong chauvinism. Recently, however, you have said that you've changed your views on the need for quotas. And I want to ask you why you've changed your views. Earlier you felt that women do not need quotas in Parliament or in legislative bodies. But recently you have said that you have changed your view. So I'd like you to share why you've changed your view.
So this is always the danger of having Arnab in a room. He researches these things and comes up with these difficult questions. Yeah? So I initially believed, like a lot of the women who worked with me, that when you have quotas, even though you are capable and you've got the job because you're capable, the organization believes you got it because you were a woman, because that quota had to be filled. So you actually lose out in terms of the respect you otherwise command because you're actually up for the job because you're capable. And so when I set the policies at the bank, I made it very futuristic in saying by 2020, this was way back in 2006, we will have 30% women across all categories. So you made it a direction, you nudged the organization in that direction, didn't have quotas. So that was me. I realized that it takes too long. And I've seen the success of the regulation for women on boards, where we were in the sort of 4-5% level till the regulation made it mandatory to have one woman on the board. And one woman is, it's still a disgraceful one. We should be at 30%. But the direction was not just set in my sort of futuristic way, but it was mandatory. And we're now at 20% women in boards of the listed companies, the ones that are required to have it. And that journey happens in a short period of 3 to 4 years because we do it. We did the same in the Panchayati reservation, where yes, it got misused. Yes, you got the women who were propped up by their husbands, as we know. But research has also shown that after she is re-elected for a second term, she comes into her own. She's no longer just there as a voice piece for her husband who's working behind the scenes through her. So I think if we have to jumpstart from a very low level, the quota becomes critical, and critical mass is important because, some of us just got used to it. It was like water off a duck's back, being the only woman in a room, having to stand up for your rights, etc. But being the only woman on a board is not the easiest thing for a lot of people. So we do need, in this creation, and hence the reservation, 1/3, etc., becomes important, is a critical mass and a sisterhood in there, which then is supportive, where it's no longer an issue of you're the lone woman making a statement. And the change that also has to come is women's issues aren't just about women raising them. So at the boards I'm on, after I've raised the issue a couple of times, I then begin to kick the guys into saying, where the hell are you on this? And the achievements that come from making sure the men ask the same question that you would have normally done, but you give them the question to ask it, is it about change? Because suddenly the ownership and the fight becomes for everyone as a whole. And I think, therefore, the quota helps because you get to a critical mass beyond which it won't matter, because women are just there, they're part of the landscape, they're not special, they're not that one voice. And the other is we will get there, but it's going to take so long that we have to jumpstart it today. So maybe a quota, which then goes away.
Ma'am, I'd just like to add to that because, like I said, a recent EY report says that about 95% of Nifty 500 companies have a woman board member, but only less than 5% have a woman chairperson. So why this stark gap, that transition from a board member to a woman leading the pack?
It will happen. I think the chairs of these boards, it's a question of time. Women on boards have been so few. Because initially everyone said we only want women CEOs, and there were only that many. It was inexplicable in some way, because every guy who came on the board was not a CEO. Every guy who came on the board came on a board for the first time, but they would say, no, we want women who've done board duties before. So once people got a little used to the fact that, hey, you just have to do it, it changed. So now, typically, a person who goes to chair a board will either be from the family, in which case families now have to, and are picking their girls. And you see some of those chairs coming from families, maybe because they didn't have sons, but are indeed appointing their